Welcome to another episode of Journey to Happy podcast. I am Olga, your host, and as always, I've got so much gratitude for you to keep coming back and listening to these episodes. I simply wanted to remind you that for the month of January, you are listening to mindset trainings that are typically exclusive for my members. Reset your mindset. But this month, I'm feeling generous and I wanted to give you some of these trainings. So, if you've never worked with me, if you thought about joining the membership, this is a really good month to just come and listen to the podcast because you will get a real live example of what the mindset trainings are all about. Of course, in the membership, you also get a workbook to work at your own pace. You get one call a month where you can come and ask me questions. You will get to listen to one of these calls that we recorded also in the podcast this month. And you get journaling prompts on a weekly basis and conversations with me on a weekly basis through a private Facebook group. But for now, enjoy this episode because we're about to dive into some really good mindset techniques. I hope you enjoy it. Subscribe to the podcast. Come say hi to me at Olga's That Way in Instagram. Send me an email or come visit my website at www.olgasway.com. Enjoy listening, and I'll talk to you soon. Welcome to the Journey to Happy podcast, a podcast dedicated to help you in the process of getting out of your own way and letting go of the mental barriers that have been self-created that stand on the way of you and the emotional freedom and happiness that you so desire. I am Olga, your host, and in here I'm going to offer you raw but real examples that will help you step into the shoes of becoming the CEO of your own life. Because let's face it, in a world where you can be anyone you want, why not promote yourself to the CEO position? I cannot wait to see you inside. All right, welcome to this month's module of our membership. I am very excited to be here sharing with you on probably one of my favorite subjects, the mind. And this month, we're going to be talking about how to overcome the perfectionist mind. I would say the majority of the people who come see me for private coaching have a tendency to be perfect, except that when they first come to see me, they're still convinced this is something pretty amazing about themselves. And I'm not here to say that they're not amazing and that they're not really good qualities that can come from the mindset of somebody who wants to do really well in life. But I've come to see this type of perfectionism that I'm going to be talking about here today is a type of anxiety and something that long-term brings very little benefits, and it does bring a lot of headaches, to put it in one simple way. So I'm super excited to be diving with you in this subject. Be gentle, be kind. Listen, this might be one of the longest videos that I've recorded to date. And that's just because it does require for me to explain a lot more things. Be patient with me because I will be looking at my notes to ensure that I don't forget many of the things that I put together in this module for you. So as always, remember there is a workbook, and I encourage you to go through this workbook along as you have after you've watched the video so that you can do some self-reflection on your own tendencies to be a perfectionist. Maybe you're going to discover that you are a perfectionist. Maybe you're going to discover that you are not one. I am personally not much of a perfectionist, but I've lived my life with very perfectionist people, including my mom. And so I know what it's like to live with somebody who is a perfectionist. And I would say that the majority of the clients I coach today like I said, have found me. And it's an interesting match because I am not a perfectionist, but I then think that I can bring you down to not being a perfectionist. However, having had anxiety, there is much of these behaviors that I can definitely see how in myself. That I might not call them perfectionism, I may call them OCD. So if you also think you might have OCD, this might be really helpful for you. So we're going to leave the perfectionist mind behind, but where do we begin? I want us to reflect. Where do you think the "I want to be perfect" mindset come from? Where do you think that comes from? What or when is it in general that we care for things or people to be perfect, or for ourselves? I think it's when we're afraid of a certain outcome. And most importantly, when we're afraid that the outcome may lead to others being disappointed on us. So think about how much effort you may put towards something being perfect, just so that you can save them from being disappointed in you, in the situation, in whatever. So let's look at, why do we care so deeply about disappointing someone? Anyone for that matter, because I mean, I work with you guys. I know that the disappointment that you think anyone may have will have an impact big enough on you so that you want to be perfect. So I actually took look at what the word disappointment meant in a dictionary, and this is the definition that I'm going to read to you. Disappointment: sad or displeased because someone has failed to fulfill our expectations. Oh, high expectations took you long to come back into our vocabulary. Expectations, you guys, are the mother of all disappointment. So I'm not surprised that I'm finding them right here in the definition of disappointment. But interesting, let's review what expectations really are. They are the fastest, most successful way to arrive to a feeling of inadequacy and disappointment. So you're beginning to follow this sequence. Perfection equals not disappointment. But should we disappoint? It's because we didn't fulfill someone else's expectations, and expectations are there to create disappointment. Perfection to not disappoint because we want to meet people's expectations, which will inevitably lead to disappointment. So this is a vicious cycle, guys, that leads to the feeling of not being enough no matter what way you enter it, which is the original belief that has caused perfectionism to be the thing that we strive for. So the original belief that has caused perfectionism for us, something that we want to strive for, is the feeling that we are not enough. In my private sessions, I tend to do what is called a blueprint. In fact, for anyone who chooses to have a single one-on-one with me, I start by creating, understanding where their blueprint is. The blueprint is a belief that we may have about ourselves that is not accurate. The "I am not enough," I see it a lot. It comes out so often. So what happens each time we strive to be perfect is that we continue to reinforce that limiting belief that there is something wrong with us, and that in order to fix it, we must be liked by everyone, and that we must meet everyone's expectations. We become a slave of obsession, honestly, and we can even become neurotic about our goals. And I'm going to be using this word quite a bit throughout this video, because there is the having some perfectionist tendencies that are, there because we want to be better in life. And then there's the neurotic ones that just makes us feel a little cuckoo, the ones that give us that sensation of disappointment. There's the black or white mentality, the all or nothing. It's a cognitive distortion because it takes us away from reality. Nothing is either completely on or off, black or white, when it comes to the decisions that we're trying to make or our mentality, right? one of the biggest things I used to do for black or white mentality would have been, I'm not going to do yoga until I'm flexible. Well, you tell me how that makes sense. What is the purpose of yoga? To build flexibility. How am I going to get flexible before, right? Like, so people want to learn some yoga before they go to a yoga class. To me, that's just, it's insane. Like, this is what we practice in the yoga class. So perfectionists have this very much all, like every step of their thinking involves some black or white mentality. I will not get help until I feel better. I will not fall in love until I've lost weight. I've heard women say this. I will not apply for a job until I've been here for 10 years. Nobody told you needed to be here for 10 years. You are creating those expectations yourselves. So black or white mentality. There's no room for mistakes. Like, the perfectionist mind suffers so much. If there's a mistake made in their mind, life should occur without any missed steps, without any mistakes. They also have a very specific manner in which things need to happen. So to make it to the grocery has to be first taking this path, then that one, then like, so they have a very predetermined way in which they want things to happen. And if it's not that way, black or white mentality comes in, or the mistake, right? No mistakes. So black or white, there is no room for mistakes. You're very specific about the way in which you want things to be or happen. Then we have all about the end result. You're so attached to the outcome being A, not B or C, but A, that you will do everything in controlling to control that end result. They are extremely hard on themselves. You guys, I've worked with very challenged people mentally, that they have like real disorders in their mind. People who have done horrible things. I've worked with people who have done horrible things. And I have never met anybody who is harder on themselves for the smallest of things, like the perfectionist. You're really hard on yourself, and you probably know this, like, and you probably have okayed it by now. You constantly spot mistakes when others don't see any. Oh my God. Like I said, I've lived my entire life with perfectionists, and this is probably one of the things that annoys me the most about being surrounded by family members who are perfectionists, and my husband amongst those, is the constantly spotting of things that can be improved. Is unbelievable. Like, that's how your brain is wired. I'm not saying yours specifically, but those who tend to be very perfectionist, they're constantly spotting when things are not right. And I say that's exhausting being on the other side, because I wouldn't notice them otherwise. So now they bring this to my attention. I'm like, oh yeah, that is true. That corner can be improved. The difference between the perfectionist mind and the non-perfectionist is that even when they point that out to the non-perfectionist, I can look at it and still enjoy my time. Whereas the perfectionist mind is going to almost obsessively think of this to the point that it could ruin their moment. It was great, but this thing that didn't work perfectly was bothering me the entire time, and that's all I could think about. You spend a lot of time trying to make something be perfect, obviously, so you guys should come at a Christmas decoration day at my house. Is a very interesting passing of events when we're putting up the tree, and I'm just like, doop, 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 and my husband comes and corrects the hanging of each ornament. And he goes and he walks around the entire house looking to the tree to see what he can see, where is there lack of balance. The procrastinator tends up to give up easily because you're trying so desperately to do things perfectly that you overexhaust yourself before the task is even completed. You're overly cautious through each task. You could spend 3 hours doing what most people would take 20 minutes to complete because you're so detail oriented. And we'll go into the details as to how we're going to let go of these tendencies, but I really want you to see, as I'm going through this list, you're beginning to think like, okay, maybe I am. And what do I do about it? The perfectionist may also look over and over and over and over at document before they submit it to their boss, just to see that, like, so there is that extra time being spent in the overlooking, overcompensating, um, like almost agonizing over small details, just in case. You might also do an incredibly long to-do list. And while you are going to hear me talk to you about getting some to-do list, you're going to see that it's not an overwhelming to-do list. Also, the perfectionist avoids doing new things. Why? Because they can't tell if they're perfect at it yet. So you will end up missing out on so much adventure and good fun things in life because of the fear of not doing it perfectly to begin with. For example, to being a constant procrastinator is delaying you in taking inspired action to doing things that could make you intentionally happy, hugely happy, like falling in love, for example, like laughing out loud, like developing a whole new skill that you might absolutely love. Not only that, another downfall of the perfectionist is a sacrifice of relationships because of so many at so many accounts. But I want you to think about the stress that goes through in your relationships because you're desperately trying to please people. So you may end up, first of all, in the wrong type of relationships with friends and otherwise, because you want to impress them, and if they're easily impressed, then they can be your friends. But also, when we're so perfectionist, we might end up overworking, sacrificing time with our partners, with our children, or the obsessive thinking of being perfect might end up making our relationships not be easy because you're constantly telling people what to do and how to, and you don't let them exist as they are. So it could definitely sacrifice relationships. That's a big downfall of the perfectionist mind. And what I've seen often is a resistance to being in relationships, because what if you fail? That fear of failing in a relationship, just like you would be fearful of failing at doing your job perfectly or something along those lines, comes into the relationships and sacrifices them. Another downfall is that we live in a constant state of unhappiness. Again, 90% of my clients, when they first come to see me, that will be their source of unhappiness without knowing it. It's, I am perfectionist. Perfect. I know we've got a lot of work to do here because we're going to begin to detach. So there is a constant sense of unhappiness when you are constantly disappointing yourself, right? And why are you disappointing yourself? Well, because you've told yourself that you were going to be perfect, which is an impossibility. No human was ever perfect. And another big downfall, we sacrifice our own health and our own well-being because we push and push and push and don't hear the body, don't hear the mind say, hey, we're tired. We've done enough. We are enough. We just step over our wellness just to ease this aspect of the mind that is not healthy to begin with. Another downfall is we cling to things that don't serve us and we don't let go. And if you don't ask, you don't believe me, think of how easy it is for you to let go of a project that's half done or that is done but not perfectly. So the perfectionists have a real hard time letting go, acceptance. And in mindfulness, we specifically practice acceptance as the art of learning to let go, because we know that clinging to things will only create human suffering. When we hold on to things too tightly, we exhaust them. Whether that's people, work, tasks, it's not liberating. Unconditional love is liberating. It's saying, I love you the way you are, be who you are. It's not saying, I love you, but you got to do A, B, C, and D. And so clinging to things will create this sense of, I've got to control, I've got to be in charge of that outcome, versus just being the flow of the river, going with and letting go and trusting that things will evolve as they may. Hi, friend. I am interrupting you. You're listening here just for a moment because I want you to hear firsthand about my membership reset. Many moons ago, I was searching for a person to work with. Not a therapist, not a teacher, but someone down to earth that wouldn't preach or look at me with pity and hold my hand and tell me everything was going to be okay. Nope. I wanted somebody who would challenge me and keep me accountable, but who would also normalize whatever my mind was going through. I knew I really enjoyed reading books about personal growth, and I dreamt of having a life coach all of my own. But at the time, I didn't have the resources to afford one. I also knew that I could reach higher potential everywhere in my life if only I had somebody who could show me the how to get there, who could point at the blockages in my own thinking, who could show me how I was self-sabotaging and the how to get out of that. And that, my friends, is why I created Reset. Reset is a membership that actually gives the members exactly what I was looking for. A therapist, coach, life coach, mindset coach, all at easy access, all in one place. So this membership gives you access to monthly mindset trainings, like the ones you're listening in the month of January here. And it also gives you the opportunity to work at your own pace through a workbook that I personally create as I create the videos. And you have access to me Monday to Friday on a private Facebook group where sometimes I go live to answer questions, as well as you get a 1 hour call with other members for office hours. So whatever you're working through, you can come live and ask me questions. You can also submit them anonymously if you are not much of a crowd person. And so really, Reset is a membership that takes away the pressures of doing therapy if you don't need it, but keeps you in the loop of doing work on areas that are really important to you. The membership focuses on 4 pillars: the mind, the heart, self-care, and the body. So each month I rotate through one of these pillars, and the video and the conversations and the journaling prompts are all about that one theme. If this sounds exciting to you, here's the best part. All of that you get for $97 a month. You guys, $97 a month. Way cheaper than a therapist, way cheaper than a life coach. And it gives you so much support each and every month that you remember. If this speaks to you, head over to the show notes and you can sign up today. That's the beauty. You can sign up at any given point. The commitment is 3 months. You have to be with us for minimum 3 months because I know you care about transformation. And let's be honest, it takes time to change the way we think. So give yourself minimum 3 months, but I hope for you to stay longer. And I hope to see you inside. Ooh, another downfall. Most of my clients who are perfectionists have experienced or will experience burnout because they don't delegate. You guys, recently one of you were telling me, oh my God, I hired somebody to help me do some housework and it was fascinating. I had time to do other things like napping. Amazing. So I'm always looking at the perfectionist mind will tell you if you don't do it yourself, it's not gonna get done well, right? So like somehow we have this belief that we are the only one who can clean our house properly. And when we do invite somebody to delegate and do the cleaning, all we look at is all the mistakes they made or the things they didn't do. So it's easy to jump to burnout when you want to do everything at work, at home, in your relationships, in your friendships, in every aspect of your life. You're not superwoman. You're not God either. So asking for help and delegating is an essential part of keeping with our well-being, but it is a downfall of the perfectionist mind to not ask for help and to not delegate. What if I was to decide that the way I am right at this moment, no changes whatsoever is enough? What if I was to say that I am enough? From there, let's look at how we can save the healthy aspect of the perfectionist in you without bringing it forward to the neurotic perfectionist. So, like I said, it is healthy to have goals and aspirations and the desire to improve, to learn, and to grow. We must keep it in check, though. For example, we all want to encourage healthy eating, but we must keep that in check so that we don't become obsessive and end up developing an eating disorder, right? Like, we want this for everybody. So how can we maintain a healthy mindset when it comes to our achievements and aspirations? Here are some suggestions, but I also welcome you to think of your own creative ways to keep yourself in check and in balance. Okay, so these are the things that I recommend my clients to do. And being here and reset your mindset, these are things that I want you to keep in mind. And then if you've got questions, lucky, we've got calls that you can come in, office hours for you to come and ask questions about it and integrate this. The first thing, obviously, is to stay away from the all or nothing mentality. Nothing in life is so strict and inclusive or exclusive. So we can begin to mature the part of our mind that believes in the middle ground. There is such a thing. The compromising, the one that has space for errors, for room to learn. The capacity to include more than to reject. So the aspect of you that can really just say, okay, one of the things that perfectionists tell me often, and it just goes through my skin, and I'm like, this is not me. This angry person is not me. This sad person is not me. It bothers me so much because the perfectionists think that you can never then have down emotions. And the first thing I say is like, no, this is also you. You are the happy person and you're also human. So you also have sad moments and angry moments. This is us. So the compromising is really just not rejecting a part of you. You might not have that state of mind 24/7 because we don't keep any state of mind 24/7. But there's nothing wrong with compromising and allowing to include more. So letting things in, okay? Stay away from the all or nothing, coming to this gray area where it's not that too much of this or too little of that. There's a space in between and you can find comfort in there. So pay attention when your mind gets trapped by this all or nothing thinking and makes a decision to not fall for it. I would even challenge you to start thinking, what other thought is available to me that's not all or nothing? What else? How else could I look at this in a way that allows me the opportunity to sit right in the middle? So can you come up with something like that for your own worthiness that doesn't involve pleasing people? Because this is, again, we talked about it, the doors to disappointment. You don't control what people feel or think, but you do control what you tell yourself about their love or rejection for the things you do. Also, it's not about you, so don't take it personally, right? Like when what people like this program, it's not about me. My energy may not match theirs, so it's their energy that doesn't match my program. Does that make sense? I'm not going to make it about me. Number 3, put yourself first. But seriously, set that as a goal. The perfectionist mind, there is always a dilemma. In the perfectionist mind, there's always a dilemma going on because there is a wanting to be perfect, mostly so that they don't disappoint others. They want others to be happy. And so when they're introduced to this, putting themselves first, they're challenged or triggered because their sense of value that has been coming from being evaluated positively by others is not there. So if we take that away, it's like, but what am I going to be working towards? If I no longer care about what other people think, then the biggest valued thing that I've been working towards my entire life disappears. So what do I need to do? Well, you need to reframe. Whose opinions are you going to value so much? And the opinion that I want you to slide in inside of other people's opinions about yourself and evaluations about yourself is the one from you. And because you have been your worst enemy for years, you have to then begin to do the work to be understanding of you, to value yourself and evaluate yourself in a more favorable way where you can celebrate your success for as small as it is success, where you can celebrate that the fact that you no longer want to be perfect because you know that's impossible. So not trusting the mind is key when choosing to do things that feel like your autopilot of the perfectionist, So, I'm going to go to the party because otherwise my husband is going to be disappointed. Like not trusting that thought, avoiding the going down the rabbit hole of what others think, what you think others will want for you to do or else, and just really focusing on you. You come first. Do I want to go to the party? Will I have a good time at the party? No. Will other people have fun if I go? What will others say if I don't? Make sense? Number 4, seeing the big picture and compromising. Because the perfectionists get so caught up in details, it's often common that they lose sight of the big picture. And also it feels like they're never ending this task because they aren't ending this task. They get lost, they don't know where they're going. Any amount of work feels endless and there is no real sense of accomplishment because I'm not quite done. So here's the compromising. The compromising is to say, I am going to get it done, even if it isn't perfect. And I like telling myself, I'll come back and review it later. If I've got an crazy amount of surplus time in my life, I'm going to come back and review. And that's always a possibility. But the compromising here is seeing the big picture, noticing what's the end results to get this thing done, get the task accomplished, and then do go back to see if later in life there is a need to review and improve. You can always go back and improve. But once it's done, and there is going to be that sense of accomplishment. It's better to have something done that in your opinion is not perfect, but is done, than to have 5 million open tasks of things that are not completed. That will increase stress and anxiety, right? So we want to allow our body to not be so stressed and anxious. And so the compromising is, okay, it might not be perfect, but it's good enough. It's done. Good enough becomes very important. And this is when you can create to-do lists to keep you focused on the tasks that are absolutely mandatory for this task to be completed. And then the perfectionist in you can just rest assured that this list has the most do's, and then the rest is like a bonus. If you have time to go back and do more, then great. Creating realistic expectations. This is very key because that's probably the perfectionist mind is going to stop you from doing the most. Because then it's going to tell you, oh, look, you're lowering your standards. So now you're not even using your brain, half of what you could. I am not saying lower your standards. Date any guy who sort of looks at you and you're like, oh, okay, I guess you looked at me. I'm not saying lower your standards, put up with a job that makes you completely unhappy. I'm not saying lower your standards and never speak your mind about what's bothering you. I'm saying notice and write down your standards currently, your expectations, the level of degree by which you want things to be accomplished, and then write down who you are and where you're at. And if the gap is massive, bring them to be a little bit more attainable and realistic to where you're at in life. I was talking to you guys about a conversation I had, a conversation I had with my nutritionist, where we were talking about my level of fitness. And I said, I want to get to this point because I was there before and I know it's possible. And he said, Olga, when you were there before, how many hours were you spending a day exercising? And I was like, 2 hours a day. And he came back to ask me, do you have 2 hours a day today to just put it into fitness training? No, I don't. I love my program right now because it's a half an hour workout and that's all I've got. So you see, I could have been torturing myself that I needed to get to this point or that I wanted to get to this point because I had been there before. Yes, but I had been there before when my life allowed for that lifestyle. Today, I have to bring my expectations to what is available to me with the lifestyle that I have. So I didn't run a business. I was employed. Big difference. I was not a mom. I was not even married. I was single. So yes, of course I had 2 hours a day. What else was I going to be doing? I had essentially nothing else to do with my life. So I was training, which is very different from my lifestyle today. So it's bringing those, like that. This happened a couple of months ago where I had to sit down and be like, oh my God, I kept thinking this was my goal, but not really thinking that my life looks so different that even if I wanted that goal, like it's now asking like a superwoman to do this, like, or sacrifice time with my family, which I am not willing to, right? So I need you guys to recreate, like, so write down all the expectations you may have, all of your goals that you have right now, especially the ones that you're really upset that you're not accomplishing. And then I want you to see how realistic with what you've got going on in life those goals are. That's the action of coming back from not being a perfectionist to being somebody who can meet you at where you're at. Overcoming procrastination. So how do you overcome procrastination? So many of us who are perfectionists cope with the fear of making mistakes by procrastinating. So when you set perfect standards for yourself, sometimes it might feel easier to procrastinate carrying out that task rather than spending hours trying to figure out how to do it. So for example, you might find that your house is usually messy, even though you have a very high standard of cleanliness and organization, because you rather put off the cleaning and making it, because you might never make it to perfect. So in your mind, it's better that I haven't started that work yet. So that's why, because you don't want to be disappointed. So how do you get out of there? Creating realistic schedules. Break down larger tasks into manageable steps. I am the queen of doing this. I've shared with you guys, like, instead of doing one massive day of laundry, I have broken it down to 2 days in my house is in my calendar. At this time, Wednesdays, I'm doing laundry. Sundays, I'm doing laundry. I even have gotten down to when I go get my car cleaned inside. Like, just things that I want to put in my calendar because I love to know that I don't have to think about them. They're just going to get done at some point when my calendar tells me. Write down the goal and the deadline and work towards it. Setting small goals for yourself along the way. And super important, don't forget to reward yourself. So you guys, when I did my laundry on Wednesday, there's not like chocolate bar coming my way, reward, but there is like a happy feeling for me. And I take the moment to say, thank you for committing, for sticking to your commitment. You're making your life easier. I take the moment to say to myself that, because it means something to me. And remember, the goal here is to complete the task, not to make it perfect. Setting priorities. So the perfectionist sometimes has trouble deciding what should they devote their energy and effort to first. So prioritize your task by deciding which is the most important to accomplish and which are less important. And it's okay to not give your 100% to every task. My priority task has always 3 things. So this morning when I woke up, I write down in my sticky note path my 3 most I do today. One was like booking my son's 1-year shot vaccination appointment, done. Second one was to transfer myself into my new company, done. And the third one was to do this video. Those were 3 things that I must do today because doing them later is not possible. And so you see, now when I'm done this video, I'm going to feel like super accomplished. I've done everything that I absolutely had to do. The rest is bonus. So having a to-do list of 3 priorities has really helped me focus on the things that must happen today. If I also have like doing laundry or like taking my husband's shirt to the dry cleaners, can that be done tomorrow? Yes. Okay, so it's not going to make it to my top 3. Things that could be done another day and it's not a bad thing, don't make it to my top 3. My top 3 were like top 3. They have to be done today. And maybe sometimes I don't have to, but I don't have anything else like that is so urgent, like booking my son's vaccines appointment. Then yeah, I'm gonna grab like taking my husband's shirts to the laundry. There's reasons of levels of priority, and you can decide what is time for what. All right. So just to complete, I want you to finish. I want you to start thinking that there is a way out of the perfectionist mind. I also want you to start thinking that perfectionism is a sister to anxiety. It's almost a form of anxiety. And These exercises that I just gave you, these things to think about, are things that, if done consistently, will help you lower anxiety overall and this aim to be perfect. To leave you with something else, because I wanted to, I want you to think of maybe practicing being imperfect purposely. Like maybe you want to try and do some of these things. They're also going to be in your workbook just for fun, just to see that discomfort and be like, okay, I can survive being imperfect. Like, for example, show up for an appointment 10 minutes late, or leave a visible area in your house a little messy, or tell people when you're tired that you're tired if the perfectionist in you thinks this is weakness, especially. Wear a piece of clothing that has a visible stain on it. Purposely allow several uncomfortable silences to occur during lunch with a coworker. Oh my God, I know who my perfectionists are because they will just break all the silences possible. Lose your train of thought during a presentation and be okay with it. Okay, I got distracted. Sorry, what were we talking about? Come back. Send an email or a text with a few mistakes, grammar mistakes, maybe the time is wrong. Just do that on purpose. Talk at a meeting without first rehearsing what you're going to say, just spontaneously. Just raise your hand and be like, what was I going to say? And last but not least, try a new restaurant or a new type of food. You might be, exposed to something you like. You never know. So I hope this was helpful. I want you to bring it home. Like, how could you apply this to you? What of all the information I gave you here speaks to you? What will be something that you would absolutely want to explore? What are you letting go? What commitment are you making today that, you know what, enough is this perfectionist mind has brought way more downfalls to my life than uplifting moments. So we're breaking out perfectionist mind. And yeah, you can absolutely do that. And I encourage you to do that. All right. That's it from me to you. I'm wishing you a super happy, lovely month. And I will be catching up with you in our calls. Talk to you soon. From my heart to yours. Namaste.